Hey everyone. So, psychedelics have been approved for medical use here in Canada, which was made an announcement last week by Health Canada. Big announcement for the industry, to say the least. So, what can you anticipate next, and what companies will stem to benefit in the short term versus others? Find out now in our latest podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the Dales Report, and happy to be joined on the podcast this morning, the CEO of Numinus Wellness, Payton Nyquvest. Payton, Happy New Year. How are things?
Things are good. Happy New Year. Happy New
Yeah.
Year.
Did you enjoy some time off?
We did actually. We actually shut down our
Did you?
offices for 2 weeks and did a collective break, which was wonderful. And obviously excited to start the new year and with some big advancement on Health Canada side. So it's a nice way to start
Yeah, I
2020.
know. Yeah, nice last month too to recap the or finish off the year being listed on the TSX. But obviously we got a
hmm
chance to
hmm
see you in Toronto, which is fun. You got home obviously well and safe, but that was a great week for you guys, was it not?
It was, yeah, really exciting week and nice to see the TSX obviously very keen and continuing to be very excited and forward thinking around psychedelic therapy and where this fits as an industry as well.
Yeah. Well, let's get right to it because I know you were probably being asked a lot of questions last week with the big announcement where we finally received long-awaited changes to Canada's Special Access Program. This is something that you've been forecasting for, quite some time now, and it will happen sooner rather than later. It finally happened. So
hmm
for those that want to learn what this means, it now allows doctors to gain access to non-approved drugs for patients in need, such as psychedelic compounds. So first off, we've talked about this in the past, Payton, but before we get into like how it all works and everything, now that it's finally here, what does this mean for Canadians moving forward as of last week?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think a few things to really highlight with the Special Access Program and the Special Access Program for people who don't know is a program that's existed in Canada for quite a long time. And as you mentioned, it's access to drugs or therapies that have represented, significant benefit that are in sort of the pre-approval or haven't finished going through the clinical trial process yet. So any data that shows a positive result through a phase 2 or phase 3 study, which obviously, with
Right.
psychedelics, there's quite a few of them, gives unlimited amounts of Canadians access to those drugs or therapies. So it's a huge advancement, and one of the things obviously that's exciting is there's no shortage of data out there around
Right.
psychedelics for a host of indications. So yeah.
How, when you say this is big for the advancement of the industry, how big is it?
I mean, I really don't think it can be understated. I think, as we look towards the future, obviously, research is extremely important. Going through the clinical trial process is really important. But, I think one of the things to not forget is these are scheduled drugs that are going to need to go through a rescheduling process. And I
Right.
think for Health Canada to really make a big step forward in terms of how they're seeing or the support that they've got. And I think, if you read the document, a few things to really highlight that we were very happily surprised about was just how much a mention of psychedelics was in that document. And
Hmm.
over 80% of all of the feedback associated with Health Canada's proposal was very, very positive to psychedelics in particular. And so I think it just
Why do you think
really
that was?
shows
What does that say? Like 80%? That's a big number.
it's a huge number. I mean, I think it says a few things. I think it says one, people are paying attention and paying
Yeah.
attention to the research. And two, we and as we've talked a lot about, there's a massive, massive need at the moment, and I think people, the sort of stigma around psychedelics, I think has come down quite a lot, and I think
Yeah.
people are reading the data and recognizing that this could be, a really, really potentially massive tool to address this massive issue
Yeah.
we have around mental health.
I'd be curious to know, because I know like everybody's conversation that you speak to understands that the society's going through some tough times, with regards to mental health right now. Do we
Mhm.
have any indication? And I don't want to paint like a dark cloud over where we're at, but have you talked to like health officials? Like, where are we as far as you look at hospitals being overwhelmed with COVID cases, but when it comes to mental health, do you have conversations as to where we are right now? And do you think this is a reason why they're moving a lot quicker?
I mean, I can touch on it twofold, one from a more micro standpoint, one from a more macro standpoint. From a micro standpoint, our therapists are busier than they have ever been, and people are in a bad spot. So,
Yeah.
we see it on the front line. We continue to see a huge amount of inbound interest around psychedelic therapy as well. Our email inbox is very, very busy. And then two, on a more macro standpoint, you see, most recently we see the overdose numbers coming out of British Columbia and out of Canada. Overdose numbers are higher than they've ever been. Suicide
Hmm.
rates are high. Depression is skyrocketing. So we're in a bad spot. There's no question about it.
Yeah. Yeah. When I read some of the new rules, just so I understand, and maybe you can walk us through, the time frame will be 48 hours for Health Canada to respond to a request from a physician to use psychedelic therapy, which, as you
Yeah.
know, is a big difference in comparison to the Section 56 exemption timelines that were much longer. Based on what you
Mhm.
just previous said, do you think a lot of that has to do with the time frame change?
It's definitely a big part of it, and that's always been, with the intention of the special access program has been, the reason for it is for people who are in dire need. And
Hmm.
as we just talked about, that can sound like maybe a restrictive sort of number, but the amount of people that are in dire need at the moment is extremely, extremely significant. And if you look at the way we treat mental health issues, especially if you look at things like suicide or addiction. You look at things like SSRIs, which have the potential to cause suicidality in some of these things. So I
Hmm.
think when we look at, what is the criteria for someone to be in a state where they're in dire need, and we think that needs, for psychedelic therapy, that needs to be prioritized in terms of, we shouldn't have to guinea pig someone through three different SSRI treatments and all these other things. If they're in a dire state, which again a lot of people are, let's get them the help that they need, and let's get it to them as quickly as we can. So
Yeah.
that's really around the 48-hour mark is a big portion, big reason for why that time period. And I think obviously paints to a very exciting advancement. As you said, the Section 56 exemptions, while significant, is a very long and tedious process. And Health
Hmm.
Canada, the Special Access Program, is a well put together instrument that's been around for quite a long time. So it
Yeah.
should be able to flow fairly quickly.
So, pathway, I guess, footprint model, as far as, from a business standpoint, you're an institution, or if you're a retail investor, you're looking at this and say, okay, this is a big announcement. The interest, or the industry obviously is going to start to interest me based off of this and where this is going to go long term. How are some
Mhm.
companies, and more specifically you, looked at, I guess, as the preeminent leader when it comes to MDMA research, excuse me, STEM to benefit versus other companies in this space, both short term and long term, based on last week's announcement?
Yeah, I think over the last year, you've seen the market get pretty educated in terms of where some of the opportunities are in the psychedelic space.
Hmm.
And so I think for us, and if you look at the special access program, this is these therapies starting to get into market. This is, the big question is always how are companies going to generate revenue, all of those kinds of things. And, with the special access program, it's a revenue generating activity. So you're starting to see these therapies in market. And I think what's exciting for us is we've been ready for over the last year, ready to be able to facilitate requests for the special access program. And what that also gives us the ability to do is start to ideate and start to put together better functioning models to be able to hold psychedelic therapy. And what does that look like within a service offering platform? What does that look like from a business model standpoint? So this is really an opportunity to start getting into market. And I think we're going to learn a lot. And I think we're going to be able to help a lot of people. So it's a really exciting opportunity. And I think those that are ready, that understand how to work with these protocols and how to work with these different psychedelics. It's not just, okay, we're going to pop up a location and start giving people MDMA or psilocybin. There's significant differences. And I think for us as a company in particular, with the licensing we have at the lab to be able to import, export, and potentially put products into market. And then we have the physical locations to actually carry out the therapy. We answer a lot of questions, and we help Health Canada a lot with putting together a lot of these models. So it's a big opportunity for us. And I think, again, most importantly is the opportunity to start helping people.
So do you see a lot of change? The two acquisitions you made last year, which was the Neurology Center of Toronto, which was, I think, in Q3, and also the Montreal-based Mindspace Wellbeing. What will happen, I guess, over the next 30 to 60 days, and how the model will advance and change?
So we also acquired 2 locations at the end of last year as well, which location in Montreal, location in Vancouver, that had been the clinical trial sites for the MAPS MDMA work. So they're actually purpose-built facilities where we can get going with both MDMA and psilocybin therapy right away. They meet all the Health Canada standards. So we're ready to go and really won't interrupt any of the services that we already provide out of our locations as well. But we're ready to go and very excited to be able to do so. And so I think for us, what this also means is, the mental health services that we offer on top of just psychedelic therapy, we're able to start tailoring that and starting to create programs, again, not just the psychedelic therapy, which is extremely important, but what does the long-term care model look like for people? And how can we continue to ideate and make better protocols and programs to be able to facilitate psychedelic therapy and make it really successful for people. I think, pretty quickly we're going to get to a spot where, it's not just about the drug, it is about the therapy, and there's going to be varying degrees of success based off of, the protocols that you're able to implement, the training of practitioners, which, that's one of the things we haven't touched on is we've also been doing a significant amount of work over the last year, training practitioners in MDMA and psilocybin assisted therapy. And we've got programs that we're excited to launch in the new year to continue to build out our practitioner set, that we've got the people ready to actually administer this therapy. That's one of the more significant bottlenecks in the space, is enough trained practitioners.
You think that gets overlooked?
Absolutely. And I think, again, there's sort of training, and then there's the quality of training. And I think really making sure that not only do you have trained practitioners, but trained practitioners who are meeting the kind of standards that we believe are necessary to dictate the best possible outcome for clients.
So the collaboration agreement with MAPS and the training that's provided through the research that's provided through there definitely is a step ahead of everybody else in the space, which, as we just said, when it comes to therapy, this does get overlooked a lot. So is there anything you can provide, like as far as an example of somebody's going through something like this that, is a very important situation where somebody is going through, let's say, a treatment and wanting to get better, where therapy is very, very beneficial, and having, like, I guess, a right approach versus, say, someone who's not?
Yeah, I think if you look at the MAPS data, right, the MAPS data from their phase 3 clinical trial, so much of what MAPS has put together is therapeutic protocols, training, and MAPS has been doing this for over 35 years. They're without question the therapeutic leader in psychedelic therapy, and so our collaboration with them not only gets our practitioners trained, but also gets them the experience that MAPS has, and in particular around MDMA. Obviously, there's a lot of conversation around psilocybin, but MDMA-assisted psychotherapy, frankly, again, as going back to what we were talking about before, what Health Canada wants to see is clinical data in order to approve these special access
Mm-hmm.
applications.
Mm-hmm.
No stronger clinical data than the MAPS MDMA for PTSD data.
Mm-hmm.
It's undeniable. So it's a significant opportunity for us, and we have a very large practitioner set who's very familiar with the MAPS protocol and is ready to get going with administering that through the special access program.
Well explained. You must be pretty happy though, outside of business and all this stuff, just in general. It's a big moment for you, is it not?
It is, and again, something we've looked at for the last year, and I think to be in Canada and to see, continuous support from Health Canada. I think one of the things that maybe gets overshadowed is just you haven't seen much in the way of significant roadblocks or hurdles from a regulatory perspective.
You're right.
They're taking the data seriously, and they're making adjustments. While the special access program might have felt like a long time, in less than a year, we've seen a significant regulatory change
I know.
for psychedelics, and very highlighted in the special access document that went out. So this is moving at a very, very quick pace,
Mm-hmm.
and I think in a way that is very, very supportive of the therapy and of accessibility for people.
Yeah. Happy New Year. Appreciate you obviously checking in with us here today. Let's keep in touch. And again, great news obviously for the industry, and best of luck going into 2022.
Likewise. Good to see you.
All right, you as well. Thanks, Payton.